I felt like I was never going to be a cop. That's for sure. And now, like even now I put my uniform on some days, and before we go out, I'm like, man,
Pinch
I did
yourself.
it.
Yeah.
Like I did it. Like I get to do what I love every day.
Yeah.
And it's because I was just so determined in the end.
Yeah.
Like I just didn't give up. So, you know.
Grit and determination, huh?
Yeah, 100%. Don't give up.
Welcome to Moral of the Story, a podcast where everyday people talk about their real life experiences. We live? Yep.
I'm feeling pretty good right now. Yeah, because everything I've ever wanted is within my reach. But I've got to be impeccable whenever I speak.
Brooke, thanks for joining us. Really excited for this conversation. Not every day we get a chance to sit down and talk to a police officer. So I'm really interested in getting to know what happens, behind the scenes. And I feel like a lot of people will learn, if there's anyone that knows about adversity and confrontation, I feel like a police officer is somebody you can really get some lessons and life lessons off. So
yeah, 100%.
Appreciate you taking the time and speaking with us.
No problem.
I'm going to start off with, can you explain the ranks when you're in the workforce?
Okay. You're going to test me here with the higher ranks, but you start off as a you start off as a recruit in the academy.
Yeah.
And then once you graduate, you're a probationary constable for 18 months after you graduate. Mm-hmm. So you're on probation for 18 months, and then you're a constable, and then you're a first class, which is one stripe on the shoulder. So the epaulets that you see on the shoulder.
Yes.
One stripe.
Okay.
That's a first class. And then 2 stripes is a senior. So I think that's like 8 years maybe.
Right.
And then 3 is a sergeant. So that's your first level of, I guess, command.
Yeah.
And that's who you'd go to first as your boss. And then above your sergeant is a senior sergeant. So a senior sergeant will be the boss of a whole team. Okay. So a senior sergeant will sit above, in my team, he sits above 4 sergeants.
Okay.
And 4 sergeants run our team. So they have different roles each day. And
how many do they kind of look after? Like how many have they got within their team? Roughly?
So we've got about 40, I want to say 30 to 40. But they have different roles as well. So we've got 3 main ones, but we've also got a separate sergeant who runs a different part of the team for different jobs.
Yeah.
And then above senior sergeant, this is where I get tested.
Yeah.
We've got inspector and then superintendent.
Okay.
And it just keeps going up from there. So you've got
what's the highest level
Commissioner.
Commissioner.
Yeah, the commissioner of police. But then he's got the deputy and assistant commissioners as well.
Okay.
Yeah. And they've all got the brass on their shoulders, so the medal on their shoulders. But I couldn't tell you who's got how much medal or anything. Once you see medal, you just call them sir. And yeah.
So from the lowest and up, do you kind of just, you mentioned a lot of timelines. Do you just kind of do your time and then is there like a test afterwards?
Yeah, so you got to do exams.
Exams,
yeah. Apparently they're pretty straightforward. It's just your everyday policing. So it's just answering what you do every day, really.
Yeah.
But you've got to do exams before each promotion.
Okay.
And then you automatically, once you've done your exams, you automatically get first class and senior. They're just a given for your time in the job.
Okay.
But a sergeant you have to actually apply for and go through a whole, applying for a job basically.
Yeah, wow.
Go through a whole process.
It's quite a lot of different levels. I had no idea of
there's heaps. Yeah.
What levels and how high it actually goes.
Yeah. There's so many different units as well. You've got just tasking and then you've got an investigations team who deal solely with investigations from tasking. So you get a job that turns into a bigger thing. Investigations takes it over, but then something that's even bigger than that goes to detectives. But it'll go to specific detectives.
Detectives, how is there a pathway you can get into from being a officer to a detective?
Yeah, 100%. But you've got to have a bit of time and experience behind you.
Yeah, you
have to be off probation, and you've got to go through. So, us probationers, we've got to fill out a probationary book. That's what they call it, but basically just ticking off tasks to show that you can do the job and show that you're utilizing the things that you were taught to do the job, basically. So we've got to do that. And then for detectives, they need the same thing. So it's basically like you've got to produce work that you've done and show them that you're capable of the level that they require to be a detective.
Yeah, wow. I tried to relate. It's so different. I try to relate your job to mine, and I work in a corporate environment, and we always talk about success and KPIs, stuff like that. For police, what's like your measure of success?
That's a hard one because, and I've always heard this even before I was a cop, you can't measure the crime that we stop, right? So if we lock someone up for something that they do every night of the week, if we lock them up for 6 months, we can't measure how much crime we've stopped because we can't say, they would have done this every night of the week for the next 6 months. So you can't measure what you stop. So it's hard to say. I think what's crucial is that, at the end of a shift, at the end of a swing on, we are all going home safe. And without injuries, because there are weeks there where we get 4 or 5 officers assaulted, some of them seriously, some, minor. But at the end, if we get to the end of a swing, no one's been assaulted, no critical incidents have happened. We've been at jobs a lot quicker than, we've been able to get to jobs quickly. That's a big thing as well. Like they do measure our time responding to jobs. Depending on the priority level of them as well. So we've got a standard that we have to meet.
I would imagine teamwork is a big thing for you guys as well. Massive. And just huge. How you work with one another. Yeah,
definitely. We've got a really good team, the team that I'm in. I think we all click really well. We work really well. We've got guys that are really, really good at certain areas and they get rewarded for that. They get to go out and do different things. And then we've got the people that are just incredible with communicating with the community and going out there on the beats every day, walking through the city, just talking to people. Like they're really good at that. And at the end of the day, then if something bad does happen in the city that involves those people that they talk to every day, they've got a better rapport with them. And they can de-escalate a situation easier. So
that's
every aspect's so important. And then bringing all of that teamwork together, like all those different individuals in a big job or a critical incident, it's really crucial.
I want to get into your background, and I would imagine being a police officer, there's certain characteristics that, make you good at your job. Either you build them up through experience or you're kind of born with it. What do you think it is for you? Do you think it's a combination of both?
Probably a combination of both. Definitely my upbringing, like my parents.
Where were you born?
I was born in Esperance. So
Esperance, that's right.
Way down south. We're there for a few years. I don't really remember much from Esperance. And then we moved to the Nullarbor. So we lived on a station for a year, I think. My parents built a caravan park out there and managed that. And I can't remember how old I was. I was really young, but we had massive mountains there, and I used to take all the people from the caravan park on my own little tours.
Nice.
Yeah. And we used to rock climb, ride motorbikes, all the rest of it, go out shooting. And then from there we went to a farm 2 hours out of Esperance. So I mainly grew up country, and then...
Yeah, you're proper country.
Yeah.
Nullarbor.
Yeah. Middle of nowhere.
And
then from there we moved to Mandurah, and that was in 2009, so it would have been 11. Yeah.
And what's been your motivation to kind of take the career path that you have? Like, was there a trigger for you? Was there like a moment where you're like, I really want to be a police officer, or was it just...
The idea had been thrown around to me a couple times in high school, so I had quite a rough patch all of high school was rough for me, and primary school. Coming from the country, I went to a school from kindergarten to year 12. There was only 20 people in the school, and you knew everyone because they lived pretty much on the same farm that we lived on. So you knew everyone, and then I moved to Mandurah where my own class had 30 people and the whole school had 400. And I was a little bit of an outcast coming from the country.
Can imagine.
I hit puberty really young, so I stood out. Like I was stacking on weight. I had acne. I was just an easy target for bullying. So that definitely set something in stone. Not that I knew it back then, but it definitely set something in there. And then the idea got thrown around by a few people and I was like, nah, that's not it. Like I don't like police, don't like them.
Yeah.
And then I got set up on a blind date with a police officer.
Yeah?
Yeah, a few years later, and we hit it off really well. And when I heard what the job was really about, what they actually did, and it wasn't just, you know, traffic stops and RBTs and, you know, because that's all you see as a civilian who's, you know, not on the wrong side of the law. All you see is the traffic stuff mainly.
I do.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
So, you know, getting an inside look, I was like, that's it. That's what I want to do. 100%. I don't know what it was, but I just went, yeah, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
And pretty much everything from then on, I focused, like my fitness, everything.
Yeah.
And basically the journey started from there.
Was bullying a bit of a factor as well? Like,
yeah, 100%.
Just wanting to, you know, I think everyone goes through bullying at some stage.
Yeah.
Some different than others, some more than others for sure. And it's such a big topic in today's day and age, like bullying, and you know now you've got online bullying and stuff like that. I can imagine, you know, from the country and being in another school and feeling like you're different. What sort of issues did that bring onto you, like growing up?
I went through. So I was bullied from about I want to say year 6, year 5, year 6 to year 10 when I dropped out of school.
Yeah.
And basically I dropped out because I couldn't put up with it anymore.
Yeah.
My family were at their wits' end with it. I was. But so much happened with it. So it started out, you know, in primary school with the younger kids. It was a lot of just, you know, name calling and, you know, the normal things that you get from younger kids. A little bit of like, you know, telling the teachers that I'd done something that I hadn't done just to try see me get in trouble, just things like that.
Yeah.
But I was sort of like on my own there, whereas all these girls that were bullying me, they all had older siblings in the high school right next to us. So in the end, as it progressed and got worse, like the girls from the high school were coming in after school and circling me, like cornering me. There's a lot of things that my mum reminds me of sometimes when we have a conversation and I don't remember it. It's like I've blocked it out. But one incident in particular when I was in primary school that I remember, I was leaving after school one day. It was like a Friday afternoon, so you get to leave at 2:30, and my mum wasn't there, so I sort of hung around for a bit and these girls came and circled me and I sort of, you know, I was like, okay, I know what's going to happen here. So I put all my stuff down, put my bag down, and I was just kind of like waiting for it.
Embrace, like
pretty much. Like I was just like, okay, so this is going to happen. There was about 5 of them. And then out of nowhere, a teacher's aide was yelling my name from across the oval. And she's like, hey, your mum's on the phone. She's got to talk to you. And the girls have sort of all like started stepping away. I've picked up my stuff and run. And I was like, oh, what's mum want? She's like, no, I just saw what was happening. Like I needed to get you out of there before anything happened.
That teacher had the presence of mind to go, I know what's going on there.
Yeah, so she definitely saved me that day. And mum got there. Mum found out she was ropeable. You know, it was just another incident for her to deal with like I'm her youngest as well.
Right.
Like, and it was just another incident. And
do you feel like, you know, being bullied kind of builds this tough skin on you? Like,
yeah, 100%. But I think I'm lucky in the sense that I wasn't someone through all the years of bullying that I went through. I struggled. I really struggled. Mentally, like I had so many issues. But I look at myself as a lucky one because, you know, I wasn't ever one that ended up being successful and taking their own life. I wasn't one that ended up turning to drugs and alcohol, you know, and that definitely comes down to having a strong family as well. You know, they had my back 100%. Even when it felt like the schools weren't doing anything. And, you know, they tried everything. I was quite academic and they tried everything to keep me in school. And in the end, they went, you know what, if you're not in the right mindset to be there and you don't want to be there, you're not going to do the work anyway. So, you know, if you want to try get out and go get a job, go for it. And I did, and I ended up being really successful in that as well. And just I just had this fire in me and this drive to, you know, do
prove
better.
people wrong. You had like a chip on your shoulder that
100%.
Yeah. And I think that comes from, you know, your support system. I think they're like, I really feel bad for people that do get bullied and don't have that support system to rely on. Because it really matters. Like, I really feel sorry for those that don't have somebody to help them through a tough time, because I do feel like a lot of kids go through it.
Yeah, definitely.
And having someone to support you through it, maybe even have your back, and I think that's a big thing on, you know, like being on one side of the spectrum, which is positive. Yeah. You know, and coming out of it, and maybe for you, I feel like you used it to fuel you. Definitely. And you know, propel you forward in life.
Yeah.
I think that's huge.
I think it's such a hard topic, because then there's people who have, you know, the most loving parents and the best upbringing that they can have. Yeah. But something clicks in them where these bullies just get way too deep in them, and they don't see any other option. And I think that I reckon that drives a little bit of my work ethic in the job that I'm in now, seeing people get away with things. And you know, I guess they're like big bullies in the real world. Like, and
it's a funny connection that you make, though.
Yeah.
And it at whatever level or stage you are at life, you can kind of connect things to some things that you experienced when you were younger. Yeah,
definitely.
And like, you know, I see things like on TV where it's like, these are adults and they're acting like kids, you know? Yeah. But it's really interesting that you kind of touched on how it kind of comes full circle. What about when you got to a stage where you're like, I'm going to be a police officer, was there any struggles with within kind of the training and you know, on your way to becoming a police officer? Was there any struggles that you had to face there?
It took me 4 years and 3 attempts to get in.
Wow.
Initially, so I started basically training and, you know, had my mind set on it at about 17, so you can't apply then anyway. Yeah. And then as soon as I turned 18, I applied and I got knocked back, and it was for 12 months, so I couldn't reapply for 12 months. And I was like, you know, at 18, I was like, I don't get it. Like,
what am I going to do for 12 months?
Yeah, like, why not? Like, I don't get it. I'd be great for this job. Yeah. And
I'd say that's quite rare, right? Like, having an 18-year-old.
Yeah, definitely. It's they definitely want more life experience.
For sure.
Even me now being in, you know, having a 17-year-old, 18-year-old rather, next to me, it's a bit strange. It's like, you're like, you know, and I'm only 23 now. Like, I'm not that much older, but yeah, I can get it looking back, you know. You can see why. Yeah. But a year later, I've reapplied and I got knocked back again. And a year later, I went, I can see what that year did. I've grown so much, and I'm like so much older and, you know, so much more mature. And then I got knocked back again. And I was like, man, I don't get it. Like, what the hell? So my partner at the time, he was like, this thing's come up for transit officers. I was like, what are transit officers? Like, I never called the train. I was like, what are transit officers? I have my license since I was like 16, 17. What are they? And he's like, just apply for it. At this point, I was so desperate to get out of retail. I'd done it for 3-4 years at this point. Yeah. I'd managed multiple stores. I'd done multiple companies. And I just knew it wasn't for me. I enjoyed managing. I hated retail with a passion. Hated it. And it was a lot of work for nothing. Yeah.
So the transit job kind of gave you, it's almost like a pathway.
Yeah.
It gave you that experience maybe that you needed.
Yeah, definitely. So at the time I didn't realize it, but I was like, I'll just apply whatever. And then I started like passing each stage, and it's the same process as police pretty much. You got stages. And I started passing each stage, and then I got to the interview. I was like, okay, all right, cool. Did the interview and I got the job, and I was like, okay, cool, awesome. Yeah, wow. What do we do? Like, what's this job? And then doing it and training and everything, I was like, so it's really similar to policing, but just in train stations and trains. Cool. So I was like, this is a good stepping stone. And I really loved my job there. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Met some amazing people, but I still wanted to be a police officer. And doing that, I was set in stone then. I was like 100% at least now I know.
Yeah.
I've got some exposure with the safety net of being a transit because, you know, if you need backup, police come. So I was like, this is what I want to do 100%. So I went to apply again and my partner at the time was like, oh, I don't know, maybe hold off for a bit, maybe give it a little bit longer in transits, get some more experience and stuff. You don't want to get knocked back for your third time because then I'm going to have to wait even longer to apply again.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, something's telling me I've got to do it. Like I had to do it. So I applied again and I started going through the process and it was a lot quicker than the last 2 times. I was getting emails back in, 4 weeks instead of 4 months. It was so much quicker. And then I got to the stage that I'd failed twice before and I was so nervous. And I passed that and I was like, oh, all I've got now is my fitness test. Like I can smash the fitness test. Like I've trained for this.
Yeah.
So I smashed the fitness test and then I had an interview and the interview was all right. Like it felt really good and I was like, oh, awesome, we're nearly done. And then they're like, oh, you failed the psych test the last 2 times. And they've pulled out my last 2 psych tests. And
really?
We want to go through your psych tests and just talk about some discrepancies in answers. And a lot of them when they've told me, I'm like, yeah, you know what? Thinking that's something 18-year-old Brooke would have said and thought. And I was able to justify, like I was 18 and I hadn't worked with the kinds of people that we're going to work with and being in transit. Now I have. And it's definitely opened up my mind a lot more and made me that much more mature. And they're like, okay, cool, no worries, thanks.
It's kind of good that they kept those answers.
Yeah.
It's almost like you could look back at your former self and reflect on how you used to think, and then you can see your progress and how far you've actually come.
Yeah, 100%.
That's kind of cool that they've done that.
Yeah.
And they kept those answers because, I would love to have insight into what I was thinking, and it's almost like a little mini journal.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So
and then I got in and started training, and I think it was day 3. I went home and I was like, what have I done? What am I getting myself into? Like, I can't do this. No way can I do this. This is way too hard.
What made you think that?
Pretty much initiation day for fitness.
Fitness stuff.
Passed out and vomited 3 times.
Really?
Yeah, like it was brutal. And it was like, I liken it to like the military and the way that they yell at you and all of that. It was like that. And it was mind games, definitely, to test you because, that happens in the job all the time. We get yelled at all the time in the job.
Yeah.
By the people that we're dealing with.
Sorry to cut you off. It's a bit like SAS. Have you ever seen that show?
That's what I felt like.
It's like that.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to compare our training anything like theirs. That is intense and I couldn't do that. But that's what I felt like in this first week. And I was like, what have I done? Like, I can't imagine trying to do this at 18 and now I'm struggling to do it at 22. I was like, man, this is hard. Or 21, whatever I was.
Can you take me through a day of the hardest day? Like, can you take me through like some of the training and like?
I can't take you through the hardest day because I think that needs to be kept secret for people going through the academy, definitely.
Nice. Yeah.
Because they purposely keep it a secret, and once your squad goes through it, they're like, don't you dare tell another squad. And it needs to be. It really is. And it's a good day.
Yeah.
By the end of it, when you finish.
Yeah. I could imagine how relieved you are.
Yeah, yeah. But I'm not a runner. I don't run. I don't like running. I don't enjoy cardio at all. I've only ever lifted weights. So the academy, when it's all about running, was really hard for me. But probably like the hardest day, you'll do things like circuits. Like there's a hill in the academy and you'll do just constant. Like it might be jump squats all the way up. Then you got to run back and then you're going to do
and they're yelling at you at
all the way up. Yeah.
On your back.
Yeah.
Wow.
Then you run down and then you're doing like sit-ups all the way up. Then you run down, you might be doing lunges all the way up. So it's just constant, non-stop.
Yeah.
And they never give you an end. So they don't go, okay, we're going to do 6 rounds of this and that's the end of it. They're like, you don't know. Put in harder work and then we might stop you. Or if you're not working hard enough, work harder and maybe we might stop you. And and it's just pushing and pushing and pushing, but they'll find anyone's breaking point. Like we had some of the fittest guys in our squad.
And they broke them down.
And they get to a point where even they go at the end of the session, I was ready to give up. For me, it didn't take much for me to go, I'm pretty wrecked. But
what do you think you learnt from that experience the most? Like, what was the one lesson you took away from that?
The absolute truth behind your mind gives up before your body does.
Yeah?
Oh, 100%. My mind was gone, 10 minutes into a session and I'd last an hour and a half in a session.
Yeah.
Or running 5Ks. I was like, I will never be able to run 5Ks nonstop. I was running 5Ks nonstop in the academy. Definitely wasn't running at the times that some of the other people were. But the fact that I was running 5Ks, I was like, and it's not a flat 5Ks either. It's up and down.
So you feel like your mind plays games on you?
100%. Yeah. Like at the moment I started thinking, I can't do this, I'd last another 40 minutes, hour after that. And, I passed out and vomited 3 times, but I was so scared of the trainer that I got up and I finished that workout.
Yeah.
And if I were anywhere near passing out in the gym, I'm going home.
Yeah.
I'm not doing the rest of this workout.
Yeah.
But in the academy, they just...
It's almost like having someone accountable for your actions.
Yeah, 100%.
Pushes you beyond your limits.
There's also only so much that they can do. Like there's an obstacle course and you have to be able to do the obstacle course. There's no ifs or buts. You don't progress to the next stage in the academy without being able to do it. Yeah. And there was this one wall that I couldn't jump over. I was there in the mornings. I was there at night. Like I could not get over it. And I was like, I'm never going to be able to do this. I don't get it. And, they were really great. They were coming out and they were like, you're putting in the work. Let's work with you. Let's try.
Yeah.
Took me 7 weeks and then I was clearing that wall every time.
No way.
I was like, I'm going to get this. And then every session we had, they'd sometimes do sessions where you're going around the obstacle course for an hour and they're like, every round take 1 obstacle off. Whatever's your hardest, take that off. I was like, every time that wall's staying in there until the end. Like I'm just always going to do this wall now.
Yeah.
And I was just so determined. And I think like anything that's ever been that hard before, I feel like I do get that mindset of I can't do it. And I think that's definitely changed since the academy because everything that I thought I couldn't do, I didn't think I could go through the academy alone, and I went through by myself. I moved to Joondalup by myself. Yeah. Like I did it all by myself and I'm like, I did that.
Yeah. Something you can hang your hat on.
Yeah.
Builds your confidence.
100%.
You push your limit. You've learnt so much.
Yeah.
I'm really impressed by the fact that you tried 4 times to get in, knocked back 3. People try something once and give up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it could be something they're so passionate about. But for you to be knocked back 3 times and go for that 4th, that says a lot about your character. And I find that a lot of people lack that. I know so many people who've got so much potential. They have dreams. They want to do something and they'll try it once and then be like, nah, that's it. You know? And you're a perfect example of someone staying with it. It's something you're passionate about and you want to do. You stay with it. And then look at all the life lessons you got to get out of it.
Yeah, so much. And yeah, I couldn't be happier with where I'm at right now in my job. I love it. It's 100% what I want to do.
Yeah.
How long I'll do it for, I don't know. Obviously, I've got a long career ahead of me for sure. But yeah, right now, I'm so glad that I never stopped and never gave up. Looking back now, I'm like, that 6 months in the academy went so quick. It didn't feel like it at the time, but now I'm like, I come off probation soon. I've been, it's all gone so quick. And
do you ever reflect in hindsight and be like, what could have been? If you did decide to, okay, I've been knocked back 3 times. Let's go plan B.
I didn't have a plan B.
Nice.
Nah, I didn't. I was like, I'm not going to stay in retail. I enjoyed transits, but I wasn't going to stay there. There wasn't another option. Yeah. I was going to, and people had said, sometimes they just knock you back to see if you're really keen and see if you come back. And I was like, well, then they're going to be knocking me back for a while. Eventually they're going to go, all right, we're sick of this chick. Just let her in already.
Where do you think that comes from? Is that childhood? Is that...
Yeah, I guess so.
Standing up to the bullies?
I think so. I think in a way, sometimes I think I feel like in a way they won because like I dropped out of school, like I left.
Yeah.
And I don't like that I dropped. Although I was extremely successful when I did, and I gained so much experience, and I was a store manager while they're still in year 11, year 12. But the fact that I felt like I had to leave school to get away from it and to start fresh, like sometimes I feel like they won. So
yeah,
I think now I'm sort of like I don't want anyone else to win if they're telling me I can't, or if, you know, if something's stopping me, I'm not going to allow it, sort of thing.
Yeah.
I think it sort of comes from that.
So, I hate to say this, but in a way, are you kind of, I don't want to say thankful, but are you at peace with how that, all that bullying and stuff?
Oh, yeah, 100%. Like I'm
you're almost
without
thankful
a doubt,
because it's made you this determined person.
Yeah, without a doubt, I'm the person that I am now because of everything that I went through, without a doubt. And like, sometimes I want to be the like really girly, like feminine female, but I'm not. I'm quite tomboyish and butch, and like I'll have banter with the guys, and you can't hurt my feelings. Like it's just not going to happen because it's just not. But I'm very grateful that I'm the type of person that I am because it's so beneficial for my job as well. Like, I will come up against, some big guys that'll say anything under the sun to offend you, and it's just water off a duck's back. So, okay, no worries. Like, thanks, mate. Have a good night. See you later.
I love for people, if they're watching or listening, that's like, that's the biggest takeaway is like whatever's happened in your past, you can like use that as fuel to get you to that next level.
Yeah.
And I'd love for like whoever's listening to really take that on if they're trying to deal with something that's happened in the past. A lot of people, I feel like, live in the past.
Yeah.
And it just hinders their everyday life. Like they just can't get over these hurdles. But if you switch that mindset to be like, it happened. This is what I'm learning from. This is how I've learned from it, and now I can use it as at my disposal. And it's almost like a tool that you pick up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Switching gears a bit. As a police officer, what do you think like makes a good police officer? Like, what are the characteristics that make a good police officer?
There's so many different police officers, and there's so many different ways to police. Like, people have different approaches with different things that work differently, but I think communication's probably the biggest thing. Like, people say, I don't know if you've heard the term verbal judo. It's like being able to navigate a situation just by communicating and de-escalate a situation.
Is it a bit like gift of the gab sort of thing?
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah. I think communication, confidence, and I think like a lot of people are very hard, and you know what, it's probably rich coming from me because I'm still so new in the job, and these guys have seen a lot, like a lot more than I can imagine right now at this point in my career. But I think still having a little bit of empathy and being able to hold on to that is really important. And guys have said it to me before, like I'm just not empathetic anymore. Like you go through so much as a police officer that you just lose that. And sometimes I go to jobs that reignite it for them, and they're like, I feel good to be able to be empathetic towards that person. And so I think there are three main characteristics that are important, especially like communication's biggest one, hands down, and confidence. You got to be confident in your ability to do your job for sure. And
did you say empathy is one as well? Yeah. I think empathy is a big one. I imagine as a police officer, you can't. It's another question that I really want to get out is how do you mentally prepare for these everyday confrontational situations when you put on that uniform?
I thought, like, you know, you gave me the questions about a week ago, and I've thought about this question for the whole week, and I had a whole swing at work. Yeah. So every day going into work, I was thinking about this question. And to be honest, I don't know that I do, because I try not to preempt each day, because, you know, as a police officer, you can go a whole day and nothing will happen. You just talk to people around the city, you know, go have coffee, have a chat to the people that own the coffee shop, and that'll be your day. Yep. You know, catch up on some paperwork, that's it. And then there's other days where, you know, you're going to critical incident to critical incident and you're getting no lunch. You know, you're just flat out all day. Yeah. Or you get a massive job and you're stuck on a massive job all day. And I think preempting something or trying to like assume something bad's going to happen is just as dangerous as being complacent in the job. Right. Because you don't want to rock up to a job and just assume that something bad's going to happen and then come in up here. Yeah. You always want to come in down here and then raise it if you need to. So like what I mean by that is if you're going into an aggressive person, you don't want to come up and be at their level when you meet them. You want to start low because it's very hard for someone to yell at someone who's calm. Yeah. So you want to try bring them down so that you can have a proper conversation and ascertain what's happened. Yeah. I think if you're preempting something and you're getting yourself built up, that adrenaline's going to start like building up a lot more and a lot sooner, and you're going to come in real heightened, and you don't want that. So I just do my thing. Like I go to the gym, you know, listen to music on the way to work and just... I guess
you just got to. It seems like about it. It seems like you've got to have a clear headspace.
Yeah, yeah.
And be in a position where
and an open mind.
An open mind, yeah.
Yeah, you might get a job where you sit at the hospital with a mental health patient all day, and so all you're doing all day is listening to their story, and you're talking to them, and you're trying to be empathetic. Like you spend your day doing that, so you got to have an open mind to what you might be doing that day. Like So I think it's important for me to do the things that I enjoy before work, just in case maybe I am going to face a critical incident that day. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It's a hard question.
I know because, we really want to understand the mindset and, you know, the attitude you guys have when you put on that uniform, because we've talked about this before, is often police officers are dehumanized in a way. Like, you know, you had an experience with our cousin where, you know, you're saying hi to him and he doesn't even recognize you because you've got a uniform on. Yeah. How does that make you feel? And do you have many of those situations? Do they happen all the time?
Happen with me.
even Dylan. It's interesting. I didn't, you know, they say it, I was saying to you before, they say it all the time, like, you know, don't ever get offended by anything that you hear on the job because, you know, from someone that you're dealing with, because they just see a uniform. They don't know you as a person and they just see a uniform. So don't be offended by it. And, you know, you kind of always think, they don't know me, like, fair enough. But then that day that I was walking up to Aaron and I got, you know, I was walking up to him for a good 5 meters and he's looking at me the whole time. And I got like a meter away and he's kind of looked at me and then like, I've been like, oh, hey, how you doing? And he's like, oh my God, it's Brooke. Like, I just saw the uniform and I was like, why is the police officer walking towards me? Like, he immediately got that nervousness and was like, what did I do? Like, and this was a protest around COVID and, you know, those sorts of things. So he was kind of like, why is a cop walking up to me? And then like Dylan as well, like it's taken a couple of, hey Dill, for him to.
It's me. I'm here.
And he was like, oh, Brooke, hey, how are you? And even my mum see me in uniform. And when I say in uniform, I'm like fully kitted up. So my ballistics vest, the belt, everything. Even my mum's sort of gone, oh, you look so different when you're in uniform.
Your mum doesn't even recognize you.
Nah. Wow. I think as well though, I definitely carry a different type of confidence when I'm in my uniform.
Yeah. I think that's what the power of the uniform does, isn't it?
Yeah, kind of. I think as well, like I'm just like when you're doing something that you love and you enjoy what you do, you have that confidence about you because you're in your element. That's where you want to be. So it's hard not to be confident. You know, where we lack confidence is places that, you know, things we're not good at. And we're not comfortable being there, so we don't have confidence. But, you know, I love my job and I love being there and I'm comfortable being there and I'm comfortable with my ability to do my job. So I definitely carry that confidence. But it was interesting. I think the most interesting one was Aaron, where like I was right next to him and it took him like a good second to go, oh my God, it's you.
Yeah.
And he said it even at family things afterwards. Yeah. He's like, it took me so long. Like I just saw the uniform.
Yeah.
Do you feel like majority, when their first reaction when they see a police officer is that they become conscious of themselves?
Yeah, 100%. It's interesting walking the beat in the city and walking around. You know, people will just be going about their day and then they see you and they're like, oh, sorry, officer, and they put their mask on. And you're like, no, you don't have to wear a mask outside. Like we are always wearing one because we have to.
Yeah.
We come into contact with so many people that it's best that we wear a mask all the time, right? Yeah. But everyone's like, oh, I'm so sorry, and like they'll like put their mask on and you're like, no, you don't. You know, you're walking around outside without a mask because you know that you don't need to, but you panic when you see police officers. And even same thing, I quite like cars. And in Northbridge, there's cars that are always like on a Friday, Saturday night, it's backed up. So they're going quite slow and we're walking the beat. And I'll go up to a car and they're like, oh, sorry, what did I do? And I'm like, no, I just like your car, man. Like, can we just have a chat about your car? And they're like, you serious? I'm like, yeah, I like your car. And like, that's sick.
Yeah.
So obviously, like you start creating these laws in your mind.
Yeah. I'm meant to be wearing a helmet when I drive a car. Like, what am I doing?
That's a good point, though, Dil. Like, I know I do. When I see a cop, I'm like, I check myself. I'm like, am I doing anything wrong?
I know when I'm in the car. If I'm in the car and I see a police officer, my eyes straight away go to my speed limit. I want to check my speed. I straight away check my speed. Like,
yeah.
I even
always wear seatbelts.
Yeah, I even did it the other day. Like, coming along, I think it's Morley Drive. There was like tow trucks, police, all sorts, and traffic was backed up. And I got there not long after this incident happened. So I was like, I kind of went into work mode straight away. I was like, okay, do they need help? What's happened? Am I going to need to park my car? Where am I going to park it? Like I'm thinking all these things for work. And then I go, okay, motorbike cops have turned up. There's enough people there. I'm good. And then like they're directing traffic and stuff and I'm watching the lights and I'm like, do I go? Can I go? Can I go? Like, I don't want to get in trouble here. Like I'm doing the same thing, like sensitive about my actions.
Yeah.
And I also didn't want to be that person rubbernecking, but I was kind of like, oh, I want to see what happens. Like, what happened?
I've got a question. So, like, would you say there's a difference now on how you would speak to a police officer now that you're in that industry as opposed to, say, before you became one? Is there a different way that you would speak to a police officer?
I'm going to expose.
Say you're a civilian now. Like, is there?
I'm going to expose myself here because I was that annoying person before I was a cop who always wanted to go up and talk to the cops. Like I always wanted to think of an excuse to go and talk to them. And I think I'm still like that now that I'm in the job. Like I want to go up to them. Like I saw the motorbike cops in Macca's after that incident. And I just happened to be there.
Yeah.
And so I've gone up to them. I was like, hey, did you guys go to that job at like this and this? And they're like, you're obviously in the job because no one says that.
Yeah.
No one knows those words. And I was like, oh, yeah, I am. Like, you know, I guess. How'd you know?
So there's that.
Using codes.
There's that.
Literally. Literally, like using job codes, and they're like, "What's that? What are you like? What is this chick talking about?" But yeah, I'm a lot more relaxed talking to police now than I, was before. And, before you're like, oh, can I swear around them? Can I do this? What can I do? Like, whereas now I'm like, I don't really care because, I know that they're just human. Like they're just another person and they're happy to have a chat. Most of them happy to just have a chat if they're not busy.
Going back to that human thing, I've made a strange connection that maybe it's actually a good thing because what you said before was like you can't, when you're wearing the uniform, you can't take things personal.
Yeah.
And I was sitting here thinking like, how do you if someone's like having a go at you, they're in the wrong, or they're just, you know, fully attacking you, how do you not take that personally?
I don't know. You just...
I'm thinking
it's just a rule that you just can't, but... You know, you also look out for your partners. Like, we're human as well, so we can red mist, so we can, you know, something might trigger us, or someone might just go too far, or we've come from a critical incident to now dealing with just a drunk guy in Northbridge who just wants to attack someone. You know, sometimes things get to officers, so you are watching your partner's back as well, and if you go, hang on, I think my partner this is actually affecting my partner, you're going to go, hey, take a step back, I'll deal with the guy. You know?
Yeah, okay.
So it's not to say that 100% we never get affected. It never affects us, nothing.
Yeah, yeah.
It definitely does sometimes, but I think
you kind of touched on it there. Like that's the job of a partner, a good partner.
Yeah, definitely. And you build up, I think you need to have some resilience before the job, but you build up resilience in the job. And when you are at work, you're just thinking work. You know, if you're out drinking and someone starts saying some of the things that people say to us, you're probably going to lose your shit, to be fair. But when you're at work, you're just at work and you're like, mate, yeah, I know you're having a rough night. Yeah, I know you've had a bit to drink. Like, all good. We'll just get you on your way. We're just got to do X, Y, Z, and we'll get you on your way. You know, we'll help you get an Uber, whatever, while they're attacking you. Like, yeah, no worries. Like, you know, after an incident, half the time, like, people get what's called auditory exclusion. So when they're under a lot of pressure or emotions are heightened, a lot of adrenaline, or it's a serious incident, auditory exclusion is where you don't hear anything. You don't know that you're not hearing anything, but you don't. In a serious incident, it can be quite dangerous because your partner might be saying, hey, like, move back, there's another guy over there with a knife or whatever.
But he can't.
You won't hear it. And it's quite common. I've definitely had it in incidents where someone's like tapped me a couple times and gone, hey, I got it. Like, hey, I got his arm. It's all good. And you sort of take a second and you're like, oh, okay, yep, we're all good. So I think you almost kind of get that. You switch it off. Unless it's really important, you know, some jobs it's really important you listen to what someone's saying. So then you are focusing on exactly what they're saying. But for the most part, like, you switch it off.
Yeah.
You might, after the incident, debrief and talk to someone and go, oh, yeah, I remember him, like, he just kept saying this, like, and just saying this. And someone else is like, oh, did you hear him say this? And you're like, oh, no, I didn't hear that. Like, so I think you switch it off.
Do you feel like that's a kind of a culture in the workforce you guys have, like the debriefing situations and picking it apart?
Yeah, definitely.
That's a big thing.
It's really important, and you've got to have good bosses as well who value and see the value in debriefs and stuff. All of ours are amazing. Like, you'll do a job, and sometimes it's not even as formal as let's all go sit down in the office and have a debrief. Sometimes it's like, hey, you good? You sure you're all good?
Yep.
Do you want to go, like, grab a coffee or something? You know, don't worry about the paperwork right now. Take your time. Something as simple as that, or even, hey, next time let's think about doing it this way, or whatever it might be. So sometimes it's not so formal, but after most jobs, you'll all gather in an area. Even if you're just going, oh my God, this just happened. Sometimes that's enough for people to go, okay, cool, I've got it off my chest.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's definitely important for sure.
What's the when you're in a confrontation, what do you remind yourself when you're in the moment? Like, how do you you know, take away what's happened yesterday, what's going on around you? There's always, you know, sideline commentary whenever I see police in Northbridge or something. You know, there's always people walking around saying cheeky comments.
Yeah.
How do you
100%.
zone in on what's going on, or whether it be confrontation or, you know, a ruckus or whatever's happening? How do you zone in?
Each officer is going to be different, but I think for me, like, safety's paramount. So I'm like, whatever happens here, whatever we need to do, whoever gets involved, we need to be safe for us and for them, because they're, you know, normally they're under the influence of something. So they're not considering their own safety.
Yeah. They
have no regard for their own safety. They're stumbling across roads or, you know, running in roads, whatever it might be. So we need to be thinking about, someone who might potentially be trying to hurt us. We need to be thinking about their safety as well as ours, and then everyone around us. But, I think in the back of my head, it's always a subconscious is safety because, you're going into an incident and you're assessing it from the beginning going, okay, do I need backup? Do I need a car here?
Okay.
Do I need more people on foot? Where is my backup?
Yeah.
Is it close? Is it far? Do I have my cameras? Do I have my body-worn camera on? And where I work, we've got cameras all around. So have I called for cameras? Have I got the camera room watching me so that if something goes sideways here, they can call my backup because I can't?
Yeah.
Who's my partner? Is it me and another small female? And, we're capable. We are very capable. We get asked all the time when there's two of us together, oh, my God, where's the male? Like all the time.
Yeah.
People are like, oh, you guys have got a male with you, right? We're very capable. We've gone through the same training. But sometimes if we're coming up against a 6'4", 120-kilo guy, we might go, you know what? We'll call for backup first. Let's not go into this one. So knowing your own strengths as well. I think
that's a question I wanted to ask you is, how do you feel? Do you feel any type of way as being a female as an officer?
I think we can de-escalate situations better.
Yeah, right.
Definitely with males. With other males, we can, because, males against males, whether you want to admit it or not, it's an ego thing. This male's like, well, I'm not going to back down against this cop because this guy thinks that he can take me.
Yeah.
And then the cop's like, well, I'm not going to back down because I'm the cop here. Like, you need to listen to me. Whether you like it or not, you're doing the wrong thing. You got to listen to me. So it's like an ego thing. Whereas girls, we can go, and a lot of guys.
Probably vice versa with dealing with a male cop for a female.
Yeah. Depending on the job as well. Sometimes, for the most part, but sometimes females are triggered by males. Like, depending on what job you go into, a female might go, hey, I'm not comfortable dealing with males. And sometimes
males
it's not.
Just don't win.
Yeah. Look, it's hard. It's very hard for them.
Yeah.
But I don't feel any type of way being a female in the job. I think I'm just as capable, but I'm also very aware that, some jobs I need the guys to help me, or I need more people, or I'm not going to be able to hold this person, or cuff them by myself or whatever it may be. I'm comfortable in the job as a female, but I also know when I need help.
Yeah. You know your strengths, your weaknesses.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm interested to know, because this is actually just something that I just Googled real quickly because I didn't want to go off my own observation. But it says that, because obviously you worked in retail beforehand, and then obviously you went into transit and now police officer. So it says that retail is actually female dominated.
Yeah.
It's dominated by that industry is female dominated. But now I was reading that the ratio of guys to girls in the police force, I think it was like 60-40 or 70-30.
Yeah.
Or something like that. So you went from being in a female dominated industry, and then now you're in a male dominated industry. You would say, I guess. Like, how is that change for you? Like, how did you?
I prefer it. I think comes back to like what I was saying before. Is I'm not a real girly girl. Like I'm not. I'm quite tomboyish and all of that, so I get on with guys quite well. But I also I think that behind closed doors, I think my banter's like a little bit too much for some girls. And I don't know, I loved my girls in retail, loved my girls. We would, even as their manager, we would all go out drinking on the weekend together. Like I loved my girls so much.
Yeah.
And we all got on really well, but I like the male dominated industry just as much. Like I have no, it's never been like a thing for me. It's kind of daunting going into certain situations, like you go to a new office or you're going to do a recall with a team that you don't know and it's like no other girls are on and it's kind of like, ugh. But I don't know. I think in this job you get over it real quick.
Yeah.
Real quick because you're always with a guy.
Yeah, I guess that can't be an issue, especially if you're getting into that industry.
Yeah,
as well.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. a single female that I've come across in policing that's has an issue with the, you know, we're all like, yeah, 100% we should have more females in here. I haven't come across a girl that's had an issue with
that's good.
the male dominant. One thing that we all us girls really like, the guys will get arrests, like a female arrest or whatever, they've got a call for a female to attend to search them.
Okay.
Because guys can't search girls, girls can't search guys. So when I'm with another girl, we're like, we have to get a guy and call over the radio that we need a guy for a search, because that's just like, that just doesn't happen.
Oh, really?
So like, you know, us girls still have things like that we're like, you know, want to push, like just to make a point. But no, I haven't come across a single girl that has an issue with the male dominated side of the job. Like,
no, that's good.
No, not at all.
You don't want to have that sort of friction, do you? Like, you can't. There's no room for it.
No, not at all.
Especially in your job with the.
Yeah, we need to be able to work together at the end of the day.
100%. So what's like? I think we got a good grasp of like your situation, your story, your background. You know, coming through. Amazing insights on, you know, the police force and everything like that. What's kind of the next step for you? Where can you go? Where can you take this? Like,
I feel like I've career-wise, like I'm like, okay, cool, I'm set. Like I've hit my goal there. Like that was my focus for years. So I think all of my focus went on that. All of my time and energy and everything. And now that I'm settled in, I've got a lot more personal goals now that I want to sort of strive for. In terms of my career at the moment, I'm kind of just finding my feet. You know, I think it's a job where you can't just do it for 6 months and go, all right, cool, I know everything, got everything down pat.
I'm out here.
I've experienced every job. Now I can just cruise and we're good. Like every day you're learning something in this job. And so I just want to like get my way through my probation and, you know, experience different jobs and how to deal with different things and learn more in the job and stuff. And that side, I'm like, that sort of set.
Yeah. I feel like your job, you're never bored. No, like you could honestly do that position forever because you're constantly thrown different challenges every day.
Yeah, definitely.
Whereas like a normal 9 to 5, you know, you can go in there every Monday to Friday, do the exact same thing. It's a routine. And I'm sure there's routines in your job, but for the most part, you're dealing with a variety of people, backgrounds, aggression, all these different things. You must feel like every day there's going to be something. What's it going to be today? Yeah,
pretty much. And like, I think it's really important in our role to take your own learning. Like your learning is your own responsibility. So even on days, like I said, are quieter, we're going, you know, community engagement side of things. Then, all right, let's go meet the managers of these stores and, you know, what issues do they face that we might be able to help with. And not only that is like, you might come across something a little bit obscure and you're like, you know what are the rules around that? What are the laws around that? Let's, you know, it's not something we deal with every day.
Yeah.
What's like, so then you're like, you want to find out that. So you're constantly learning and you've got to make that your own responsibility for sure. But you can just keep growing every day in the job.
Wait, police officers don't know everything?
No way, man. We're human.
Yeah.
We deal with like, I don't know, maybe like 10 to 20 main offences that you deal with day in, day out, that you know like the back of your hand. You know the elements, you know, the elements of the offence. You know
how long they'll get locked up for. Or...
You know how to deal with the job, you know. As the new guys come, you can teach them how to deal with the job. Hey, this is the go. But, you know, there's still things where then you go, hey, Sarge, I've got this situation.
Yeah.
Like, how do we do this? What do we do? I had one the other day and I was like, an acting sergeant turned up to help me and I was like, I'm stumped here. Like this, I've done X, Y, and Z. And he's like, yeah, you've done all that right. And I was like, so now what do I do? He's like, normal process. I was like, really? Wow, okay. All right, cool. Like, I guess we'll do that. Like, you do this, I'll do this. Yeah. Awesome, sorted. So, yeah, like it's daunting because you think about the responsibility that we carry. So it's really daunting to be in that situation. And I was the senior person there at the time. And it was daunting for me because I was like, I'm running this and I'm stumped. Like I'm calling sergeants and stuff. And I was like, okay, cool. Yeah. Like I just got to write it out. And I think the best way to learn is get thrown in.
Yeah.
Like just get thrown into it. And
agree with that. Yeah.
You know, I'd much rather that. And that's another thing our team's really good for is they won't just go, oh, you know what? You don't know what you're doing. I'll just do it.
Okay.
They'll go, all right, cool. Let's teach you. If you don't know, let's teach you how to do it so that you've got that as another tool. You know, we've got all these accoutrements on our belt and they say it all the time. We need more than just those tools. You know, we need something we can reach into for our communication.
Yeah.
We need something that we can reach into for, you know, our defense mechanisms other than our accoutrements. We don't want to fall back on them. You know, I think that's a big misconception that we're always like, oh, well, we've got weapons. Like we can do whatever we want. You know, we don't want to fall back on them. We've got other things that we need to be able to reach into to deal with different jobs, you know, whether it's the communication side of things or being able to deal with children, you know, troubled kids or a mental health patient. You know, I've had one that I was so grateful that I had a background of dealing with my own mental health issues because I could help her so much. Like, and I walked away from that job going, oh my God, like
really fulfilled.
Yeah, 100%. Like I noticed that it was the male officer triggering her. So I was like, hey man, I'll be good with her. You just go outside. I'll deal with it. And straight away she started coming down. She's like, okay, cool. Like, you know, she found someone that she could trust. And I was like, she was having a panic attack. So I was like, all right, let's go through what techniques work for you. She's like, oh, you know about the techniques? So I was like, yeah. I was like, is it this one? Is it this one? And she's like talking me through what she uses. And I'm like, all right, cool. Let's do it together. You know, I'll sit here and we'll do it until the ambulance arrives, whatever you need. Whereas, and when we left, the other guys kind of went, we're glad we had you there. Like, we were only going to upset her more and there wasn't much we could do for her. So I think being able to have that other toolbox that you can reach into.
Yeah, it's really critical. Hey?
Yeah, yeah.
I think I have so much, I've never been in a situation where I've had a bad dealing with a police officer, thankfully. I know a lot of people, say my close friends, have had some instances where, you know, it seems like, yeah, a bit messed up. But I, for one, have a lot of empathy for police officers because I feel like they can go from one extreme to another. They can be in a position where they're being fulfilled because they're helping somebody and really making a difference to they're the scum of the earth sort of thing. And that spectrum in between, you guys can fall between one extreme to the other. And I always felt like it's a job I don't think I could ever do.
Yeah, a lot of people say that. Like even ambulance, when, you know, we go to and assist St. John Ambulance a lot. And a lot of the time they're like, oh, man, I'm so glad I don't have your job. And I'm like, man, I'm so glad I don't have your job. Like your job seems awful.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. A lot of people say that they couldn't do it. And I'm like, I don't know. It's not that big of a deal to me. Like I'm like, why not? Like it's not that bad. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't get it. I definitely don't understand it when people are like, oh, I couldn't do your job. I'm like, I guess it takes a certain type of person, but I don't think it's that difficult. Yeah, I mean, it's a hard job, but
I think it definitely does take a certain type of person, and I think you do possess all those qualities that a good, successful police officer does need to have. A question that I'm really like, I think it's on top of my mind, and you touched on it a little bit earlier. What is the biggest misconception about police officers? It could be out in the mainstream media. It could be, you know, anecdotal, how you deal with people in the street, things that you hear.
I think we're very Americanized. Like everyone's view is very Americanized of us. Like they're, you know, anything that seems to go on in American police, we cop.
Really?
Yeah. Like if something's going on over there, then we start copping abuse along the lines of that. Like they'll start using that as a reason to abuse us. Like, oh, you're just going to do the same thing. And
right.
So I think that's an issue, but I don't know as such if it's a misconception, but I think people just forget that we're human as well. Like we have lives outside of policing as well. And, you know, half the time we don't want to be doing the things that we're doing when it comes to dealing with people, but we're faced with a situation, we have training to fall back on, and that's what happens. And people miss the whole story as well. Like they'll just see you wrestling on the ground with someone and they'll think you're the worst person ever.
And all you need is like that clip or that soundbite, and then
little do they know that, you know, the horrific things that this person may have done beforehand, and we're the ones that have to be this close to them, dealing with them, you know, and risking our safety. So I think it's just, I don't know that it's a misconception. I just think I feel like people just need to be a little bit more open-minded when they see police officers dealing with things. And I'm not saying every police officer is a saint. I'm sure they're not. I haven't come across like real bad police officers. I've watched someone deal with a situation and gone, I might have dealt with it differently.
Yeah.
But there was nothing wrong with the way that they dealt with it. I just may have dealt with it differently. Like but I'm also very fresh, so I have a lot more patience. I'll sit down and talk. If I've got the time, I'll sit down and talk to someone for 2 hours if that's what they need. Whereas another police officer will go, you know what, we just need to deal with the situation at hand. I'm sorry you've got trauma. We're going to go deal with another job.
Yeah.
We deal with the situation at hand. See you later. We're off.
Okay.
So I think it's just like, people, I think they need to be a bit more open-minded when they see people or police officers dealing with people, because they don't know what's happened prior and, you know, with that person, but they don't know what the police officers had to deal with that day.
Yeah.
They have no idea what job they've come from. Like, and a lot of people, they can't even perceive the things that we would deal with.
Yeah.
So they, you know, their first thought isn't the critical incident that we may have just been at. So yeah, I don't know.
And that's, people don't understand, the level of things that you have to deal with.
Yeah.
And what we were talking about off air was like, you don't know how you're gonna act until you're actually in that situation.
No, not at all. And they try to teach you in the academy. You know, you've got your freeze, fight, or flight responses. You know, people say it all the time, but they are actually 3 human responses that you get in a stressful situation, right? And they can teach you in the academy, and you watch people in training freeze. They're like, wait, what am I meant to do here? They can put you through as many scenarios as you want, but you never know until you face a job what you're going to do. And people will always say, oh, you fall back on training. You fall back on training. That's why you got to rep it out. Do as many repetitions of it as you can, because you fall back on training. And it's so true. The minute your adrenaline spikes, you go into training mode, and that you get that auditory exclusion.
Yeah.
And some people get tunnel vision as well. So they will just focus on, you know, if there's one main aggressor in a bad incident, they'll just focus on that and they'll forget their surroundings. They won't even know if more police turn up.
Yeah.
So like I said, I've, you know, had to draw my taser once, and that is the most scared I've ever been so far. I'm sure something else will come.
Yeah.
But afterwards I sort of went, okay, no one got hurt. Everyone's safe. You know, we were outnumbered 40 to 2 officers,
Really?
I think. And before our backup arrived, everyone ended up safe. Everyone ended up calm. And, you know, we got the job done, and the offender ended up safe as well. So he was uninjured. We were all uninjured, and all the bystanders were uninjured as well. That's the best possible outcome.
Yeah, that's success, right? That's...
Yeah. But I was able to sort of walk away afterwards going, because taser was something that I kept forgetting in the academy. Like I kept going, like it wasn't something, because I'd come from transits, they don't have tasers. Yeah. So for me, it wasn't an option. I'd done 1.5 years with some critical incidents as a transit where I didn't have a taser. So it wasn't my first option when I started training. And the trainers even said to me, like, you know, remember, you know, if you're in, you know, a situation that permits and it's that dangerous, if you need to draw your taser. And I was like, oh yeah, I forgot I have that.
Yeah.
So going out, like, it was nice to know that when I was put under pressure and, you know, I was in danger and my partner was in danger, I did what I needed to do. So it wasn't like a freeze situation where I didn't know what, and I didn't have my partner's back or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially I feel sorry for some of the, I mean, that's me now. Some of the guys that are getting, the newest guys come through, it's scary going into an incident because you're like, we don't know this guy.
Yeah.
You know, this is your first shift with this person. You don't know how they work. You don't know if they're going to have you back. So it's scary going into an incident, and it's something that you got to consider as well, is that, you know, you might be with someone that doesn't have you back.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Is it true that you have to get tasered?
No.
No. Okay.
No. We all want. We all want to. I think
so that's a myth. You can debunk that myth right now.
Yeah, and you don't get sprayed with OC spray. I 100% will put it. You need to be sprayed with OC spray.
Wait a minute, but you do it in transit.
Yeah, so as a transit, you get primary exposure. So you get sprayed in the face. You have to do your empty hand tactics with the trainers before they let you get rid of it. But police don't do it anymore. Okay. They used to do it. They don't do it anymore.
So you have been sprayed?
Yeah.
But not tasered?
Not tasered. Yeah. Apparently everyone reckons tasering's far better. They'd pick taser. People who have had
over
both.
the spray?
100%. It's 5 seconds. Taser's 5 seconds.
Have you seen The Hangover?
Yeah.
That scene where he gets tasered and he's just like, he's going up the kid. Do you remember that scene?
Nah.
Do you remember that scene?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
I'm the worst with movies, eh?
Oh, right.
But yeah, people that have had both, 100% they'd pick taser over spray. The thing that scares me about the tasers is the probes. Like, they're like little needles that go in.
And they stick into yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that scares me more than the actual tasering. It just locks up all your muscles, really.
Yeah.
If I was a police officer, I'd just be playing around with all this.
You'd be a liability for sure.
Hey, I'm interested to know, because you did speak about that even here, Australian police can be, we kind of have an American outlook on who police are, because obviously we see it on the TV, the movies we watch. Like, would you use terms like, that's a wild goose chase, or something like that? Would you use?
I think.
Has that ever popped up? Like, what is
a 187?
187.
We got a 187 on.
I couldn't even tell you. I think a 187 as a job code would never actually come up, because an 87 is like. So your job codes are like you have your job code, which are the two numbers, and then the number in front determines the priority of the job. So I've only ever heard of priority 1 once, and that was for urgent backup for other officers that had no backup around. So everyone could go priority 1 to get to them. Mm-hmm. Most jobs are going to be a priority 2 or a priority 3, and then 4 through to 6, and they all have different meanings.
Yeah.
But a 187 here, 87's a COVID job, so I think it's someone's like not wearing a mask. So I don't think you're going to get a priority 1 for someone not wearing a mask.
Well, no, it's from a song. I'm not sure if you know the song 187.
Yeah, but I'm like, yeah.
That doesn't exist here.
Well, it does, but it won't happen.
Is that when me and Faye say 5 to each other.
You guys have your own job codes. Yeah.
But there are obviously job codes you would have to remember.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, every job has a code. So, yeah.
What has been how has your perception changed by being like in life and in general by being a police officer? Big question.
Yeah, it is. I think the cliche saying, like, you know, you don't know what someone else has going on.
Yeah.
But for so many reasons. One, like, you know, we deal with people who are recidivist offenders, so they're constantly offending and doing the same thing, or it might be even a juvenile offender. And then you get to the root of it and you look at their background and, you know, you find out that they're out doing this because they've got nowhere to stay and they're only 15 or whatever it might be. So things like that, having an open mind. But even, like I was saying before, people not having an open mind when we're doing our job. So that's made me have an open mind for other jobs. Like I used to I used to be in and out of hospital for like my own issues all the time. And I used to always sit there and be like, this is so slow. Like, I don't get, what is their problem? Like, there's nurses back there just standing there having a chat. Why are they, like, why can't someone take me? And now that I'm a police officer and sometimes we're just standing having a chat, but it's because of a job and we've got, you know, a million things going on. And it may look bad as an outside perspective, but now I understand that there's obviously a reason. Like there's something going on. So I think definitely in terms of that, in every aspect of life, like someone's job, you know, the reason they're doing the thing that they're doing, you know, the reason that they are the way that they are, it definitely made me have a more open mind. Yeah,
it's almost like you've got a greater empathy for what goes beyond, like what happens behind closed doors in someone else's life.
And it's ironic because most cops just get jaded and they're like, we see the worst of the worst. So they're like, the world's a horrible place. Yeah. You know, there's only bad things out there, but I think maybe I just haven't been in long enough. It's yet to
come. One final question. If you were to summarize the moral of your story thus far, how would you summarize it? Like what sort of characteristics have you? Sort of morals have come from being a police officer?
I've learned so much, like, but I also feel like so much happened to me personally in such a short period of time that I know there's still so much more to happen. Yeah. But I think, like, I've got so much more determination and grit. Like, I just won't give up. Like, and I have a more open mind and I'm more determined. I'm setting myself bigger goals. I think everything that's happened, like, it's such a cliche saying. Yeah. And, like, I don't want to end on a cliche, but it's so true. And some people would disagree that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Like, the stuff that I went through in, like, a 5-year period, it felt like it was never going to end. It felt like I was never going to be successful. I felt like I was never going to be a cop. That's for sure. And now, like, even now I put my uniform on some days and before we go out, I'm like, man,
pinch yourself.
It. Like, I did it. Like, I get to do what I love every day.
Yeah.
And it's because I was just so determined in the end. Yeah. Like, I just didn't give up. So, you know.
Grit and determination, huh?
Yeah, 100%. Don't give up.
I love that. I think there's so many people lacking that. And I touched on it before, like, to hear you get knocked back 4 times or go through that process 4 times, to me connecting the dots with other people, how they, you know, have all this potential and they just, you know, they get knocked back once and then that's it.
I think as well it's important to find it in yourself. When I was with my ex-partner and he's a police officer, I thought I was only ever going to be able to do it because I had him by my side. Right. So the fact that I did it after we split up and I did it by myself, like, I had to find it in myself to do it. Yeah. And that taught me so much that I went, hang on, like, I don't need someone else to be able to do this. I can do it by myself and I'm going to do it by myself. So I think you need to be able to find that sort of stuff in yourself and not lean on someone else for it.
Grit, determination. Love that. Brooke, I think we'll leave it there. Thank you for coming on. Like, I've learned so much, and just hearing your story, I think it would help so many people get past the, you know, whatever they're going through, whatever sort of adversity they're about to face. I think there was some amazing lessons there. So
bullying as well, I think that's a big one. Big one for especially kids as well.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. I think you've used that as leverage, you know, to get you to that next place in your life that you've wanted to go, and you haven't let it, you haven't dwelled on that.
Yeah.
That's really cool. All right, Brooke.
Cool.
Thanks for joining us. It's moral of the story.